This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. Mountaineer fans, welcome to another episode of Mountaineer Moment. I'm your host, Troy, and we've got an episode today dedicated to the one and only backyard brawl legend, Nicco Marchiol, who has officially been ruled out for the season. Again, we've been talking here on this podcast about his lingering foot injury, seeing different specialists out in Colorado and Arizona, and now officially being ruled out for the season. And then with that, also his intention to enter the transfer portal, able to have a medical red shirt for this season based on the injury, and will be entering the transfer portal. So this episode's dedicated to Nicco Marchiol, and a huge thank you to him, his loyalty, his time in a Mountaineer uniform. He is one that absolutely, that statement will stand forever. Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer. Nicco Marchiol, thank you, brother, for doing what you've done, your commitment to this program for the last several years, and this episode's for you. And in this episode number 39 of Mountaineer Moment, kind of a special one, obviously in between games here for the Mountaineers, where they'll be matching up with BYU here in just a couple days. But the news of Nicco and his season ending officially coming on October 1st, and the same with the news for his intention to enter the transfer portal. And so I'm recording on October 1st too. Not necessarily an emergency podcast, whatever you want to call it. The news broke several hours ago, but certainly an episode that we have to do. Even in the middle of a game week, this is one you have to get out because of Nicco and who he is and what he's meant to this program. And again, the once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer thing, what he's going to continue to mean to Mountaineers everywhere, especially when you think about the backyard brawls and him being 2-0 at home against Pitt. Unique circumstances, both games, 2023 and, of course, 2025 with the comeback victory this season. Will not soon be forgotten, will not ever be forgotten. When you think about Nicco Marchiol 30 years from now, when he comes up on a broadcast, or, you think about, or it's an Aflac trivia question in a few years when it's like, who in 2023, who was the quarterback that that came off the bench for an injured Garrett Green and helped the Mountaineers get to a victory at home? And then in 2025, who was the quarterback that started the game, got benched at halftime with his team winning, and then came back in the game in the fourth quarter with his team trailing and engineered 3 straight scoring drives to lead his team to victory over their arch nemesis, the Pitt Panthers? That answer would be Nicco Marchiol, and that answer will forever be Nicco Marchiol. So we'll start with that. Not necessarily a game plan for this episode, but I'm just going to say what I feel about Nicco and his what he's meant to this program. But for starters, you got to look to this guy and his loyalty in the era of the transfer portal. This is a guy that came onto the scene in 2022. Didn't see a whole lot of action that year. 2023, played in several games. Obviously, again, the highlight being that game against Pitt. Did he do a whole lot? Nope. 6 for 9 for 60 yards, but he threw a touchdown and did enough for the Mountaineers to win a 17-6 game. Also played that next week against Texas Tech, if you remember. We won that game, 12 for 21 for Nicco. Couple interceptions, but he ran it 15 times for 72 yards in that one. And again, saw some action other weeks, but not a whole lot. But those were his 2 performances in 2023. 2024 still backing up. Garrett Green got a couple starts, in that season as well last year. The most memorable game that I have, aside from Pitt, in those 2 matchups, but Nicco started a game in his home state of Arizona. And I just so happened to be at that game when Nicco led the Mountaineers to victory over the Wildcats. That was one of my might have been the only road game I went to that season. I went to a couple road games the season prior when Garrett Green started, but this was a game I got to see Nicco start at home, or I'm sorry, on the road in his home state, I should say, when he went 18 for 22 against Arizona, 198 yards through the air in a 31-26 victory for the Mountaineers. He also had 11 carries for 39 yards. Led the Mountaineers to a victory the very next week in a start against Cincinnati, also on the road. 9 for 15, 156 for him, and a 31-24 victory. So even last year, in a year of ups and downs for the Mountaineers, when Nicco played, he won. When he started games, he won those games, and just speaks to his character, his leadership, his ability to go out and have an impact on games. You also think of Oklahoma State last year. Garrett Green missed just a couple series, but Nicco came in through one pass, a 10-yard pass. I believe it was to Traylon Ray on a quick slant into the end zone. Just an absolute bullet. And I remember, just being hyped for the kid when he threw that last year against Oklahoma State in that, Mountaineer 38-14 win. But he had that, and then he, ran the ball 7 times for 46 yards too. Like, he just had an impact. I think that was the game when he trucked over, I think, Oklahoma State's leading defender or leading tackler on defense. Nicco, for a guy that wasn't the starter in 2023, wasn't the starter in 2024, became the starter in 2025 and started 4 games, and now his Mountaineer career is apparently done as he enters the transfer portal. He's got some memories, and again, the big 2 are the backyard brawl wins, but there's other things that are, for me, it's the Arizona game because of what he was able to do in his home state, and had a really phenomenal game. He threw a nice bomb to Traylon Ray in that one, right? Like, there's just memories that we have as Mountaineer fans that stick with us, and Nicco's got plenty of them for a guy that, again, hasn't started a whole lot as a Mountaineer. For you, you might be thinking of other games that I'm not even thinking of, but those are the ones that jump off the page to me. And, more than any of that, this kid's loyalty is pretty spectacular. Again, came onto the scene, sat behind Garrett Green in 2023 and 2024. He was here in 2022 as well. But as a freshman, but he waited his turn, and did it end how any of us were anticipating? Absolutely not. He waited his turn, didn't go and jump ship, sat behind Garrett Green, entered into his junior season as the starter, and with injuries and not just to Nicco, but along the offense with losing Jaheim White and Jaden Bray and all sorts of things, and an offensive line that has just been bad this season. It didn't work out, right? Like, here, it wasn't on any of our bingo cards to be sitting here thinking, Nicco Marchiol October 1st is out for the season and entering the transfer portal, right? Like, that wasn't on any of our radars. That wasn't on Nicco's radar. That wasn't on Rich Rod's radar. Like, this was not part of the plan, not part of any of our imaginations, and yet there's a deep level of appreciation and, again, thinking of fond memories, whatever you want to say, like, of Nicco and what he did here. And again, his loyalty jumps off the page. He's a guy in the era of the transfer portal with guys jumping everywhere, which way to try and see the field. He waited his turn, and I'll make a statement that I'm 100% confident in. If the Mountaineers had an average offensive line here in 2025. We are so significantly below average offensive line play, it's not even funny. But if the Mountaineers had an average offensive line, and if Nicco, never had this foot injury that he, has been bothering him, he'd still be here, and we wouldn't be talking about an offense that's struggling like they are. We wouldn't be talking about I don't even think we'd be talking about other quarterbacks, right? Nicco won the job coming out of fall camp, started the first 4 games of the season, had struggles, and I get that, but a lot of that is due to a terrible offensive line that he's been handed this year, right? Again, if we had an average offensive line and he didn't, come down with this injury, there's no question. He earned that job. He was QB1, rightfully so. And I'd go on record as saying that I think Nicco would be having a pretty solid season this year, through the Mountaineers' first 5 games. But unfortunately, we're not sitting here saying that, and it's due in large part to an offensive line. And now we're here, and QB1 on October 1st is entering the transfer portal, has intentions to, and is done for the season. And so it's crazy. And yet again, there's I'll say this, not that I've seen a ton of this, not that I'm scrolling on X and seeing a ton of people bashing Nicco or saying this or that, either in games. I mean, in games there's been some things, about his performance, and again, take all that with a grain of salt, because this offensive line that he's been dealing with is really bad. But now with, again, this decision out for the season and going to the portal, if there's anybody that is coming at this guy, right? I got a word for the haters, right? If there's anybody coming at this guy saying, he's not loyal, or saying, why is he quitting, or saying this, or, just things that are out of line, out of pocket, and uncharacteristic of the truth of this young man, stop it. Stop it. This kid has been loyal. This wasn't, again, this wasn't on his radar. Whether he feels he doesn't fit in the Rich Rod system the way that he thought he would, or he's just tired of what it's been so far this season with this O-line. And again, now he's injured, right? He's done for the season, which is playing a huge factor in all of this, of course. But don't sit here. Do not sit here and bash Nicco Marchiol. Don't hate on the kid. Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer. And I'm going to be rooting for him like crazy wherever his next stop is, even if it's in the Big 12 Conference. Right? Even, let's say, he goes home to Arizona, right, where he played really well as a high school athlete. And, again, there last season on the road to beat the Wildcats. What if he goes there, right? I'm going to be rooting for him. Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer. So that would be my challenge to anybody. Anybody that's hating on him, sit back and think about it for a second. Waited his turn, got the opportunity, was dealt a really bad hand based on what's around him and the injuries even around him, and now his own injury. He did his time, paid his dues, whatever you want to say. I mean, he's no ill word, nothing about Nicco Marchiol coming out of Mountaineer moment. Ever. Do I make myself clear, right? Ever. So, man, best wishes and wherever he ends up in the transfer portal. You're getting a winner. You're getting a competitor. You're getting a guy that can absolutely win on a power conference level at quarterback if you surround him with the right pieces, put him in the right system. He can get the job done. He can get the job done. And so, West Virginia obviously moving forward might be going with a freshman at quarterback, Khalil Wilkins, looking like that could be possible at BYU. But, there's the episode previous to this one, though it dropped, just so you know, if you're like, what was he talking about in the last episode? Just so you know, the quarterback situation, I think it's called, the last episode, which didn't drop until Wednesday night, was recorded on Tuesday before this official news of Nicco Marchiol broke. And so if anything sounds a little off in that, that's why. It came out on Wednesday, even though the news came out on Wednesday. The episode came out on Wednesday, but it was recorded on Tuesday. So just be mindful of that. But again, this episode strictly dedicated to Nicco Marchiol, his time as a Mountaineer, his memories that he's made for life, his fans he's made for life as a backyard brawl hero in both Mountaineer games at home that the Mountaineers had against Pitt, winning those games as the quarterback. 2025 was a special one you think about the situation, getting benched, coming back in, delivering 3 straight scoring drives with a offensive line that sucks, right? Like, pretty cool stuff. And so thank you, Nicco. Right? If Nicco ever, if you ever get a chance to see this episode or hear anything said of Mountaineer fans in a positive regard, man, thank you for sticking it out. Thank you for, really, for a kid that's not from this state, for just buying into the culture, buying into even sticking it out through a coaching change when so many players left. You stayed, and thank you. And absolutely, you got lots of fans in Morgantown. They're going to be cheering you on it wherever your next stop is. So thank you, and let's go Mountaineers.